Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel My Time My Teacher. In this video we are going to talk about class 12th sociology, chapter number 6, challenges of cultural diversity. Since you know India is a country where we have a lot of religions, a lot of castes. India itself is having 3,000 castes, 20,000 languages, a mix-up of hilly areas, plains and the deserts. It gives a vividness to everything. Not only to cultures, not only to language and to the caste, but to everything. The beliefs, the traditions, the customs. Here we have the people, those who are living in urban areas with all the modern facilities. At the same time, we have the people, those who are living in the forest are called tribals. So a complete range of vividness is available in India. In this video, we will talk about the challenges which are coming out of the cultural diversity. It is good for many reasons, but at the same time, it gives challenges to the people, to the country. Let's see that. The very first topic is community identity. What is a community basically? Community is a group of people. A group of people which is sharing same resources, same culture, same traditions, and same beliefs. A group of people, those who are sharing same resources, means living in the same area, same culture, same traditions and same beliefs. The people, those who are very closely bound with each other, is called a community. And community identity is these all. They represent the identity of their own community in front of the country, in front of the other people. Why? Because they are very much possessive about their community. They do not want to live away from them. They want to be a part of it forever so that their community can live, can grow. They do not worry about anything else, about any other community, because they think that their community is the best and they need to follow the guidelines which are given. The same thing after this which happened is, at the time of division of the country, in 1947, when India got independence, before independence, India was a whole like this, which include India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. We are talking about the concept of nation state and state nation. It was like this, but when we got division, We got India. We got Pakistan. The India, because it became independent, so it is called nation state. Pakistan, because that was separate, that is called nation state. Because they were complete in their own. They were not going to be separated because of some reasons. That's why they are called nation states. But in 1971, when Pakistan was divided and we got a new country, Bangladesh, then it became state nation, and it also became state nation. When the states of East Pakistan or West Pakistan, they were made different countries. The states, they are working now as a new nation. So they became state nation. Before that, these both together, when they were together, they were called nation state because they were sovereign. They did not need anybody's help. They were complete in themselves. The same was with India. But after this, on the basis of state, it was decided that this will be Pakistan, this will be Bangladesh. So that is called state nation. Got the difference between state nation and nation state? Nation state, where the nation is working as a state. State nation, in the easiest words, where the state is working as a nation. Right? That is the concept of state nation and nation state. Now the next is multiple states. If we talk about USSR, if we talk about USA, if we talk about UAE, then we see that all these three are the groups of states. It is not a single country. United States of Soviet Russia, United States of America, United Arab Emirates. These are not a single state, but that is a group of states which is called a country. This is the case of multiple states when we do not have one or two, but we have many states in one single country. The concept of multiple state, it is called when all the states are united in the name of a country. Right? After this, we are moving to the next topic. Next is the policy of assimilation and policy of integration. I have written here two policies, policy of assimilation and policy of integration. What is policy of assimilation? When we mix the cultures, it is called assimilation. As I told you in the beginning, India is a country where we have so many cultures. But when the cultures are living together in the nearby areas, they got mixed. When they get mixed, that is called the process of policy of assimilation. We are giving something to others, other cultures, at the same time we are adopting something from other cultures. The cultures are going to be mixed. The policy of assimilation. It benefits us because whatever bad things we have, we can modify them by adopting something from others, so that it is going to be very beneficial for the people of our country, because the people are going to take benefit out of it. They will take the benefit, because if there is a drawback or there is something which is going to create problems for the people, for the followers, then it is better to replace that or to modify that. The same we are getting in assimilation. If we talk about the policy of integration, you see, it unites us all. It unites us all in spite of religions, in spite of caste, and in spite of regions. Whatever we have, how many are the people, those who belong to different castes, different religions, but still we all are Indians. When we talk about the national anthem, the national song, when we talk about the constitution, at that time we feel that we all are united. Irrespective of so many differences, we all are integrated. We forget about caste, our religions, about our languages and everything, and we work wholeheartedly, we work unitedly for the betterment of the country, right? That is about the policies of assimilation and policy of integration. The next is regionalism. What is regionalism? When we talk about our region, our locality, it has also been seen that the people, they are much worried about their region. They want to be united with them. They do the favorism because they feel that a person who is coming from our own region is quite close to us in comparison to the person who is from other. Like if we talk about these reasons, I have written the 4 directions. If you want to make a connection between the people of East India and the people of North India, then they will not feel so much of integration, so much of love, so much of possessiveness as they are feeling with the East Indian people only, and these North Indians are feeling with North Indian people only. Because we believe that the region is the one which is going to be united in all the forms. All the forms of language, culture, traditions. There are so many things which are same. That's why we feel quite close to each other whenever we talk about all these. So it helps us to be united with our own regions, but at the same time it is also going to divide us on the basis of region. How the people, they are going to perform extra duties in order to make sure that how the people are belonging to my region, right? The next is Minorities, majority and minority. As the name suggesting, majority and minority, the population which is in majority is called majority of the religion. The other religions, those who have less population, are called minority religions. In India, we have Hindu religion as majority with 81% of the population. Other religions, the Muslims, the Christians, Sikhs, Bauds, Jains, etc. These are the religions which are coming under the category of minority. See one thing in very easy way. In India, Hindu is the religion of majority and other religions are minority. Right? If we talk about Pakistan, we see Muslims are in majority, other religions are in minority. Right? That happens. Now the thing is that when we talk about the issues of majority and minority, at the same time, we need to think about their cooperation in the society, in the country. They bring us another topic, nationalism. What is nationalism? Nationalism means when the people, they are worrying about their own nation, about their own country. That is of two types. Inclusive nationalism and exclusive nationalism. Inclusive nationalism is the one which is going to be united, who all religions for the country. When all the religions are united for the country, that is called inclusive nationalism. For example, in the condition of war with any outside country, we all Indians are united without worrying about our religion, which religion we talk about. Whatever the religion is, but at that time we think about our country and we are ready to fight, ready to kill, ready to die. That is inclusive nationalism. If we talk about exclusive, then we talk inside our religion. Everyone thinks about the own religion, or we can say that the religions separately are working at their own level for the betterment of the country. They are going to decide how to fight with this thing, this issue. Every religion is performing their own duties. That is called exclusive nationalism. In inclusive, all the religions are coming together. For example, Indian Army. We have the soldiers from all the religions, but they do not worry about their own religion. They work for the country. If we talk about exclusive religion, we talk about the religious leaders. Whatever they think is good for them to just contribute for the betterment of the country on the basis of their own religion. is called exclusive nationalism. Right? Clear? Now moving towards next. The next is secularism. Since we adopted our constitution in 1950, it is written in the preamble of the constitution that we are a secular country. But what does secularism means? Secularism is, since I told you we have so many religions in India, it means respect all religions all are free to practice any religion government will not discriminate on the basis of religion. These are the basic points of secularism. When we use the word secularism, it means we are giving respect to all the religions as equal as we are giving to us. Respect all religions. If I belong to a particular religion, it does not mean that I am going to insult other religions. All are free to practice any religion. If anybody wants to convert himself, herself to some other religion, then he or she is completely free. They can use it, they can convert themselves. If they are finding that the particular religion is good for them, they can go there happily. They need not to take permission from government or from anybody else. And the first and the most important is, the government will not discriminate. Any of the government or the government organization will not do any kind of discrimination on the basis of religion. For example, you are going to the hospital, you are going for the jobs, you are going to the educational institutions, you are going to the police, then nobody is going to discriminate on the basis of religion, that because you belong to a certain religion, so we can't help you, we can't admit you in the hospital, the police can't deny for the help. Right? That is a biggest part of the secularism, how we are doing it in our country. The next part of our diversity is the period of emergency in 1975, when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. There was emergency in the country. It was the time when all rights were abolished. All the rights, human rights, civil rights and all. Government launched mass sterilization for the males in the society. The males were caught by force and forcefully they were sterilized so that they could not give birth to the children. It was the one and only program run by the Indian government to control the population of the country. Right? What else? It was a mismanagement in the country. The people were just roaming here and there because it was a problem with that. The people lost jobs. They were going to die because of hunger. The emergency, since there was no right left, the police was running here and there, catching the people, arresting the people. Nobody was allowed to have a group or a meeting together. The social functions like wedding and the death ceremony of somebody and all these things were going to be stopped. Only a few people can go and just do it. Gathering of the people was not allowed at any cost. How the emergency was going to affect the people? After this, one other thing we got is RTI in 2005. RTI is right to information. Right to information means now every Indian can get information about anything, whatever they want. If I want to get the information about the Prime Minister's office, about the expenses of the Prime Minister's office, then I can get, whether I do not have any relation. RTI we got in 2005, making the people enabled to understand the expenses, or if any kind of corruption or something doubt they have in any system from any government office, they could get the information. It was under the control of the people to make them satisfy, to make it very clear to all of the people so that they can develop trust in the government, in order to make it easy for them to understand whatever is happening in the government offices. Before that, the government offices were not giving any kind of information to anyone due to any reason. Maybe the certificates which you were asking that were taking a long time, that were deleted, were not given. Whatever was happening in the offices, nobody could understand. But after the arrival of the RTI Act, it was possible for everyone to get it. The person, the information seeker, has to pay the charges of the photocopies, the courier services, postal services to get the answer, and he will get it. Right? It has also brought a lot of change in the life of the people to build trust in the government and the government offices. Hope the chapter will be clear after watching the video. It will help you. Thank you very much.